Black coming to you with the Crafty Maven Getaway scrapbook album share for Halloween. So first things first, a little bit about my album and storage. I use American Crafts 3-ring or D-ring albums to store online. I don't scrapbook chronologically, but I do store them that way. So that's why I use the D-rings, because I can move pages in and out as I wish. And then how I store them on IKEA Calyx shelves, and I have a 2x4 unit right now completely full of albums, and then I have a couple of other cubbies, two other cubbies basically that are full right now with albums in my 4x4. So my albums are quickly taking over, and one of the reasons it is, and you can see this, is I was going to do my latest album, but I thought, you know what, if you've watched me at all, you've seen basically all of those layouts. So I went back to my very last album in 2015. This is still not really a work in progress, but there are a few little things I still need to add to this layout wise, and or move pages around, and you'll see that. But I store all my albums on, on this way with the flat surface here. And what I do then is I just take these little metal rim tags and I write the year and then the volume. So if you're looking, you can see this one says 2015 volume 7. And I did say this is my last one. So yes, I made 7 volumes worth of scrapbook pages last year in just my 12x12s. I do one specialty album every year, and that's December Daily. I did, by the way, think about showing you that album from last year since we're coming up on December Daily, but I decided to kind of put that off until later and do a share from last year. I think this year will be my 10th year of doing December Daily. I've done it every year since Allie started doing it. So anyway, if you're interested in that, let me know and I'll do it a little bit quicker. But otherwise, I'll probably hold off a little bit. So this is how I store it. This is how I label it. They just sit on my shelves, and I move things in and out. A couple weeks ago, I finished kind of rearranging 2014 all the way up to September, and the reason I don't have it done past that is my nephew's wedding is in that album, and I have not finished my layouts. I did for his wedding. I did his album, and now I'm working on an album for my other nephews. So I at some point need to finish my 2014 album, and that'll come, it's fine, whatever. So anyway, and then you'll look, I'm going to take some photos of how I store my albums so you can see it. I was using the chestnut color until last year when I couldn't find them anywhere and ended up switching to black for this year. Well, now I see that chestnut is back. So I'm probably going to switch out my albums again, because what I was doing was brown was my everyday albums and black was travel. I have a blue one for my baby photos, my photos of me as a child, and then I had turquoise for my wedding albums, which are not on my shelf since I am divorced, but they are stored away. I haven't gotten rid of them. I worked too hard on that album, but I'm not ready to display that, nor probably will I ever want to be storing it or displaying it. But anyway, that's a lot of information you didn't need to know. So here's my album. As I said, I do not scrapbook, and I'm just kind of trying to make sure that you're seeing as much of these as I can. I do not store chronologically or scrapbook chronologically, but I store that way. So this it happens to be, and I don't divide them in any particular order. I fill an album. They all hold 20 of these page protectors, 12x12 page protectors, so 40 layouts, and then I'm done. Unless I would say make something super thick or super thin, which super thin doesn't occur in my life. So super thick, then sometimes it'll be less, but basically 20. And this is kind of nice because it's starting with kind of a fall theme layout. This is a layout that I did of, I was divorced and sold a condo last year. So this is kind of pictures of that process. I loved this tree that sat outside my living room and bedroom window. And when I went on the last day just to make sure everything was out and all of that, the tree was starting to turn. So I took some photos outside of the bedroom window and then just my view, just so I would remember that. And I've done more than one layout about this house just to see it. So a little bit of a Maya Road pocket, and I don't honestly, I think this is Ellie's Studios fall collection last year, but I don't remember that for sure. Here's another one of those layouts about the house. And this is a picture of like my front door, my back door, my garage, and then the back of the condo, just to help me remember what it was like, because it was an important place in my life, and I just, you know, think it's cool. And then what I did is, there were more than one set of keys, so, and we ended up keeping one accidentally, so I just took those keys and hot glued them to this tag and made this layout. And I believe this is all basically Amy Tangerine papers, and then some American Crafts cork and a few other things in there. But I love this layout. It's one of my favorites, and I love that there are documented. There's another private story about these keys that I'm not going to share with you, but that's also important too. So it's a good way for me to remember. This is a little picture of my male cat. His name is Linus, and he's snuggling next to me. So I just did a funny little layout about what he does during the day and how, you know, how he spends his time. This is Echo Park. All of this is Echo Park basically, and on a craft background. I frame a lot of my layouts. If you've seen me do that, sometimes I totally frame them, and sometimes I break outside the frame, which is what I did here. So hopefully you can, yeah, I think you're getting that whole thing. All right. This is a layout about my oldest grandson. I now have 2 grandsons. His brother was born earlier this year. So this is just his first airplane ride, and I did it with a boy collection from Echo Park. Lots of wood veneer on here, and some themey product. I went and dug into my stash and found airplanes. I hadn't flown in a while at this point. I am going to be flying the weekend that this goes up. I'm actually going to be going on a visit to surprise my mother for her birthday with my siblings. So anyway, that's that. Here's a picture of my grandson in Boston. Thank you. I couldn't remember where they were. In Boston, he's running through the green here, but it just reminded me of someone running towards their dreams and dreaming big. So I love that. I like how this is a quadrant here, and the blue and the green are just really cool colors together. So that's kind of fun. This one is a view outside of my current home and condo. And just I titled it An Autumn Morning. These trees were so beautiful, and they're about this color now. They're not quite there, but they're very, very close. This is more Echo Park. Apparently I was on an Echo Park kick, but that's a good thing. These are older things, so I need to get rid of that. This is that same grandson again. I do scrapbook about myself, honest. You're not seeing a lot of it here. But I did a little quick babysitting thing and took him to a park, and he was not happy about having his picture taken that day. He's been that way since he was born. If you took his picture, even when he was just a couple weeks old, I have the funniest picture of him when he was about 4 or 6 weeks old, and he just looks frightened and really disturbed about the fact that I'm taking his picture. So a lot of straight lines here. You'll see my style is the same now as it was then, with lots of layering, usually using a journaling card, mostly 4x6 photos, frames, that's all kind of the same. Here's another one of him from that same day. And again, a frame. Here he's actually smiling at me, which was kind of nice, and that's what I commented on about this one. This is Chamel's paper line. And then here I documented a cup of Starbucks. So this was my first pumpkin spice latte of the season on October 25th. So I just documented that, and this is really basically Echo Park's Let's Eat collection, I believe is what they brought out. So they had a cup and hearts and favorite, and then they had some other eating or coffee drinking sort of themed things. So I cut those all out, cut them out, and put them on. So PSL 1. I often document my first PSL of the season and or my first red cup of the season. So I think it's fun to look back year to year about when I had that first red cup. And I wait till a really kind of cold, blustery day to do it usually. When I don't have a Starbucks in the town I live in now, but there's one on my way home from work. So I try to kind of get that down. This is one of those empty spaces I told you about, that it happens to just fall in here. What will happen is if I don't have a layout that goes in here, eventually this will move over. So what happened is I can pretty much guarantee. I have these two things scrapped in here. I scrapped this, and I just added the page protector in. And yes, there are, that means I'm using extra page protectors, but I'm not really all that disturbed about that. So here's a picture of my cats looking out my patio doors onto my deck, and they do this frequently, so it was a fun thing to get documented. Most of this is Chamel from True Stories, I believe. Here's my grandson again with his mama, and this is him carving a pumpkin, and I had babysat with him a couple weeks before this, I told you, and he couldn't say scary quite the same way that, you know, perfectly, so he pronounced it scary. So I was so excited to be able to use that, because this will be cool to look back on as he gets older and as his brother gets older, to talk or to look at how he pronounced things. So that was really fun to do that. This is mostly, I believe, Bella Boulevard with this is a Studio Calico button and a few other buttons, but I often scrapbook the words he says. So this is a layout about myself. Finally, I told you I scrapped myself. I know this is a bottle of wine, and that doesn't seem like, you know, how much can that do, and I am a survivor on my way is the name of the layout, and a little thing from this that says, this is my stories. This is the Simple Stories I Am collection, but I journaled about how I had been through a really rough year last year. I'm not going to go into that particular story right now, but I'd been saving this special bottle of wine to drink when I felt like I was through the worst of it, and that's what this represented at the end of October, that I really felt like I was through the worst of it. And you'll notice, you know, another frame here, there's a frame here, lots of frames. I like to, especially papers like this where things are running off the sides, I want them contained so your eyes don't run off the side. At least that's how I feel about it. Lots of layering in here, layered clusters. That's my style, and it hasn't changed in definitely a couple of years, probably 3 or 4 years. Here's another layout about myself. I'm so glad you're seeing layouts about me, because, you know, I actually do scrap about myself. This is a photo of me from a day when I went and got a haircut and got quite a bit of hair cut off. Not that I set out to do that, but sometimes that just happens. And I really liked the way the cut looked. You'll recognize, I think this is the photo that I use on the Crafty Maven website, so I do use that as my photo quite often. This is a lot of Heidi Swap here with some Bella Boulevard washi tape, but lots of Heidi Swap in here, and I love this. This is one of my favorite papers. This is a layout that has a really cool story behind it. One of my best friends was diagnosed with very serious breast cancer a year ago in September, and she works for a national retailer that's based in the city I live, or the area I live in, and her team at work sold shirts that said Team Chris with a ribbon on them, and donated, and ended up donating the money, and it was over $2,000 that we raised. And what happened is then, as her really close friend, she's a friend of mine from high school who is still my best friend, everyone in her life who wanted one of those shirts, including friends and family, wore that shirt that day. This is a picture of the group of friends, high school friends, without her there, because she didn't know. This was the weekend before we did this. And on a Friday, they got people together in this conference room and called her to a meeting, and everybody was wearing those shirts. And and it was really early in the morning, so that she didn't realize what a lot of them said. She noticed that people had the same shirt on, but didn't really realize what it was for. So this picture is mostly her, you know, the crew that she works with and the people she works with, but there are friends and some family members in here as well. So it's giving me goosebumps talking about this. And she is okay. You know, has some lasting effects from the breast cancer fight, but definitely has been cleared with her diagnosis. So we're happy about that. This is another Simple Stories I Am layout, and this is documenting 1015, which was layout a day. And I participated in that for about 3 or 4 years. I didn't do it this spring, and the fall one is for members only. So I kind of was not following along. My work schedule has changed and made it a little bit harder. But I scrapbooked 419 layouts last year, and I've got, I think I have about 320 done, or no, it's actually 330 done right now for the year, plus 100 process videos. So I think I'm okay. I don't have to keep doing layout a day. This is one of my favorite layouts. It's a photo I stole from Facebook from my stepson, and it's my grandson sitting in a wheelbarrow, and he posted this to Facebook with a caption, "I asked Micah to put the leaves in the wheelbarrow. I think there was a misunderstanding," and I had to get this. So I love the photo. I love this snapshot of him at this age. And then one of the other things I really like about it is, the big title with mixed fonts, and then I also like all these brads. I don't use brads very often, so it was kind of fun to do a scattering of brads like you might do sequins. This one is another one. He was going through a really funny sort of time in his life, I guess. Daddy asked him to come downstairs, and he came downstairs. So he's Daddy says, "Micah, let's go downstairs," and Micah comes down the stairs on his tummy, and he's perfectly, okay with being able to walk downstairs. So that was just kind of funny. All right, this is my first red cup documentation here. And I took a picture of it, again, used a cup from that Elle Studio collection. This is, I think it's Maggie Holmes, and I think this is an old piece of crepe paper Christmas line. And then some Amy Tangerine and some Recollections mixed in, lots of different things. More Elle Studio here. This is some American Crafts. And I talked about not just the fact that it was my very favorite, but it was one of those days where if you're a member on their app, they gave you buy one, get one free. So I had 2 of them. I actually saved one for the next day and just reheated it. And I know that's kind of, awful and all, but it was really good the next day anyway. And then I talked a little bit about the controversy behind the red cup in this video, or in this layout, I should say. This is another one of my grandson and his family. They did this little train excursion, so I used a little bit of train themed product with some stickers here, and just how much he loves it, and just talking about the people in the photos. This one is a photograph of my 2 cats here snuggling up. They don't snuggle all year until it gets cold, and then they start snuggling again. This is some really old paper. I don't remember for sure, but it might be KI Memories. But this is probably at least 6 years old, I'm guessing. So I just like that. I used a lot of old product. Everything on this page was old product. So at the time, there was nothing new. This one is another one of my grandson and his mama. Daddy was away deer hunting, so they had mommy and Micah dates, and she took this cute little photo of them when they were going out, and so I just did a little say cheese and happy, called it The Cat's Away, so the mice will play. And just kind of a fun little documentation of what they did while Daddy was away, because that will change this year because he has a baby brother now. This is another one of just my favorite layouts that I did last year. It was a picture of our first big snowfall, something more than a dusting. It was on November 21st of last year. And these are Christmas products, basically. This is all an Elle Studio line from last year. This was from Michael's last year. They did these wood veneers, and I bought this white one, but they also had them in dark wood too, so that's where the snowflakes are coming from. And oh, I'm sorry, these little snowflakes are from Recollections. They had the Christmas pack, so that's where that came from. This one is about that. This is the same day. This is later on in the same day. I had gone to work that morning. On the way home, I had a flat tire on the freeway, so I had to have a truck come and change that for me. Then I went to go, just because I still had my donut tire on, I didn't want to leave. I had to go to a friend's house for dinner that night, and I went to get into the spare vehicle I have here, and there was a low tire pressure warning. And at that point, it was cold, it was snowy. I said, enough, I'm done. Obviously, I'm not supposed to go out again. So I titled it, I Give Up, and I stayed at home, was reading my book on my iPad and enjoying a fire with a glass of wine, because I really did. I came home, I took a shower, I put my pajamas up, on, poured myself a glass of wine, and was done with the day. So it's fun to remember that. You know, this is one of the reasons we do this, right? This one is another picture of my grandson, and I actually got to use these donuts from one of the Dear Lizzie's, I think this is Serendipity collection. I love sweets. I'm not a big donut person, so it was nice that I got to catch him doing that. And again, a frame here. This is a frame on this one as well too, but you'll see I only did it on the top and the bottom, if you can catch that. So that's something a little bit different. I have to remember to do that because I like the way that looks. This is Thanksgiving and my brother-in-law being silly. My brother-in-law has an awesome sense of humor, and I gave him this crazy hat that says gobble till you wobble. And so he wore the hat and then put it over his head and walked around like that for a little bit. And then I got this card. Oh, I'm trying to think. I think Jen Gallagher maybe sent this, or no, it was Julie Bean Soup posted this on their website. So watch for those kind of things. So it said, I am thankful for, and then I just wrote Mark, which is his name. And this is Christmas product actually here, by the way. I'm not quite sure why I decided to do Christmas product on a Thanksgiving layout, but I did, and you wouldn't know it's Christmas. So anyway, and then I love the sticker that says, let's take a silly one first. So that's cute. And then just funny, side by side, it ended up, I scrapbooked these two layouts at two different times, and the same paper ended up together. So they sort of look like they're the same story or something like that, which they are not. So one of the things that I might do is go back and pull, because I have not scrapbooked, well, I shouldn't say this. I scrapbooked my photos from Thanksgiving in my December daily because I started on Thanksgiving Day, but I don't have anything here because of that. So I might just go back and find a story. I love these photos of him and I wanted to highlight them. This is in my December daily too, but I really wanted to highlight this in my book. So I still think I need to separate this, but if I never do, it's fine. So this is my grandson and mom and her mom. So, and they had a little brunch together and right, you know, before Christmas or as Christmas season was starting to roll. So this is appropriate that this is all Christmas product then. And then, oh, and this, I like this too, because this title is a 2-font title. I usually do that, or I like to do that quite a bit. So that's that one. This was a post from my stepson again. He took my grandson and the dog for a run on a day in December, on December 10th. It was very, very warm that day, in the 60s, high 60s, I believe, because he's only wearing like a more of a spring kind of jacket. So I just like, he titled it something about, he said something about taking these two goofballs out for a run. And so that's the name of the font. And I love the green and yellow and navy here. This one is kind of a fun layout. It's kind of a fun subject and just a fun paper here. I bought a silver foil pack or silver pack at Michael's after Christmas and scrapbooked this. This was from before Christmas. We went to a restaurant for dinner and the menus were like iPads basically, only they were lighted, and the guest checks were as well. So for those of us who are over 50 and are having a hard time to see, it was wonderful. And then so numbers, because they were checks and menus and that kind of stuff. And then I used a bunch of Heidi Swap things. I actually took a frame. I used a frame. I've talked about that on my channel for sure, about how frames are my kryptonite. So then layout is called Uber Cool or ? And then the journaling is in this pocket. These are my cats again, and my male cat they're snuggling, but my male cat has his paws all over my female cat's head. So this is kind of just a funny thing. Using Amy Tangerine papers here, and then I used some wood veneers from 7 paper, which no longer exists. So I was very sad when those went away because I loved adding those to my cat pages. This is a funny one. This is my grandson not being so happy. And Daddy posted a photo of him. So Mr. Grumpy Face is the title of this. I kind of like the way this title nestled in around this cluster. A lot of times I would line it up to the side of it, but this is kind of nice the way that worked out, and I have to remember that that's an option to do. That is one good thing about going through your albums. You're like, oh yeah, I haven't done that in a while, so kind of a fun thing. This is old Studio Calico paper here. And here is my grandson baking cookies, helping his grandpa and mama bake sugar cookies. So really, really fun. And I was able to use some old stickers and pieces from October Afternoon from a collection, I think 2 years ago. So that was a fun thing to do. No matting on this one, even though I told you a lot of times when words run off, I like to matte things. But I think with the red of this, it really draws your eye back to the photos so that your eye comes right back. These are photos of, on this layout, photos of my stepson, his wife, and my grandson, and then her mom on Christmas Eve. So I just titled it Christmas Eve 2015. And I love how this is a snapshot of them before the baby's born. So my grandson was born about 3 months after this. So just cool that here's the snapshot of their family. This is one of the reasons I love scrapbooking. This is a photo of some butterhorns. It's a little pastry that my mom used to make when I was little, but she doesn't anymore, and I never really learned to do them, but some of my friends do. So she brought me a couple, and I had them for Christmas Eve breakfast. It was a treat that day. I did have other things, I promise, something a little bit more nutritious. So I think this is Elle's Studio paper again, too, but I'm not positive about that. I know some of this is October Afternoon as well, too. Here I documented 2 cards that people made me. If I get homemade cards, I keep them to document them. So that's what I did here. I used the Elle Studio collection from last year, which I think was called Good Cheer, if I remember. And you would, in order to open these up, you have to take them out. I could cut this page protector, but I probably won't do that until I know that this album is complete for the year, because then I can cut it and it won't shift. Because if it ends up on this side of the paper, it would be a problem. My next layout is one that I do every year and one that I love. It's a layout and it can be 2 or 3 pages. This year it just ended up being 2 pages. And what it is, it's my photo cards from the year. So anybody who sends me a photograph, a card with photography, photo cards, I cut out, at the very least, I cut out pieces of them just with the picture. And then I just flat out collage them onto a layout. This year, I think I had 2. I think the year before I got more cards, and this ran to 3 pages. But I really try to fill it with basically the cards. I'll put little scraps of paper in here and there. I always put the year on it somewhere, so here's the year. Sometimes I'll use pieces of the cards as well. So like in here, if something says Merry Christmas, I might do it, but I didn't have any of that this year. And then I used a couple of peppermint enamel dots kind of scattered throughout. But I love this. It's so cool to see that these, I think I've been doing this for probably 5 or 6 years now at least. I love not throwing these out, and you know, here are the memories. It's cool to see how the kids grow from year to year too. Here's another one of those blank pages. Again, I'll just, you know, take this layout and move it over if I need to. And what this one is it's catnip stoned cats, because on Christmas, well, right around Christmas every year, I always give them catnip. This happened to be on New Year's Eve day, and they're acting crazy. So I love the colors of this, though. The silver with the blue and the mint, just it looks really cool. These are Amy Tangerine papers, I know that for sure, and lots of Amy Tangerine embellishments. But I think the bows are actually Heidi Swapp, now that I think about it. But I just love how this turned out, and then the silver letters just look fun. And I use 3 fonts there on a 3-font layout, and I have to remember this is that L shape that Schmel talks about a lot. So that's that one. I'm almost done. Here's a cute little photo of my grandson with a face full of chocolate shake, and these are nutrition shakes. They're not ice cream shakes, but anyway, he loves to drink these. So just a fun layout about that, using doilies on a layout about a boy, but you know, hey, you do what you can, right? Get away with it if you want. One of my favorite punches, which is the EK Success Embossed Dot, and I actually used some washi tape, which was awesome. And again, 2 fonts here in my title. And then this one I didn't frame either. So I told you that normally when I have things where, especially words where they run off pages, I put them on frames, but I have not done that twice. I think though, if you look at this layout, that word paper recedes in the background because it's a darker color. Darker colors recede, brighter colors come forward at you. That's just a design principle. And so that just comes, the darker paper goes back and just is a really nice place for this to rest on and ground the actual photo and all of that. This is, and I think this is my last layout. Yep, this is my last layout. It's a picture of New Year's Eve dinner with some friends. And again, I used that Elle Studio Let's Eat collection. I love that. Just took 3 photos of food with my my iPhone. And a mixed font title again. Lots of straight lines, paper layers. I usually use about 2 or 3 layers of paper. So here I have basically 3 main layers of paper. This one I have 2, but that's a big hallmark of my scrapping style. Also, I journal often on journaling cards. Both of these have journaling cards to them, layered clusters, and usually I have thickers in my title somewhere too. That's the other thing. So that is the end of the scrapbook page, and I ended with, you know, 1 blank page. Although really, if I were to, where that there's 1 page missing, I would not have this here, but whatever. Doesn't make any difference. Thanks for watching. And catch us on actually the Crafty Maven channel as well. So it's the Crafty Maven Getaway. And I will be back with another video soon. Hope you're all well and